I know. So first and foremost, congratulations on starting the new season of MTN Champs in Benin. Went brilliantly well from everything that we heard. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the Team Nigeria list for the World Indoor Championships. What do you make of this list?
Happy New Year to you today. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'll take it. Happy New Year to you too. Yeah.
Good evening to Wale and good evening to Mr. Tony. It's a pleasure to see you guys again. Well, World Indoors have always been an event that most athletes see as some sort of disruption to their season more than something to look forward to. And this year, seeing perhaps the highest number of pullouts in its history. And don't forget, we had the World Indoors last year in Glasgow.
Which you attended, right?
I was there in Glasgow, and because of the COVID-19 disruption in the calendar, we literally had back-to-back World Championships. And with the Olympics happening last year, athletes just were really burnt out. And you get a situation where even from America, where they typically have some of the best indoor runners, even from their own national indoor championships, you had the likes of Noah Lyles, the likes of Christian Coleman, opting not to even go there. And some of the winners, likes of the reigning Olympic champion, the 100-meter hurdles, Marcel Russell, winning the national championships in America and opting not to go to Nanjing. So you just have a scanty full of world-class athletes that's going to be in Nanjing. And let's not forget that to condition themselves ahead of the season, leading up to the World Championship, which in this case, that's the World Outdoor Championship that will be taking place in Tokyo later this year. It's going to be in September and it's going to literally end the season. So coming over to China, then coming back to perhaps Europe or America and continue your season, to see it as some sort of body or some issue. And let's not forget, 2 weeks ago, we just had the European Indoor Championships in Apeldoorn in Netherlands, right? So it just feels like a whole lot of schedule for this athlete. And for Nigerian athletes, typically you rarely see us going for the World Indoors, right? Most of our records were run at individual races or independent races. So take, for example, Koinsola Ajayi calling Deji Aliu's indoor 60-meter record of 6.48, right? He did that at the NCAA's championship over the weekend in Virginia, right? Deji Ali did not do his one as a World Indoor Championships. You would have to go way back to, I think, Valencia in 2007, where we had the Lusosi Fasuba winning the 60 meters, right? But those were like one-off things. Chukwuebuka Enekwechi, one athlete that has always been consistent, trying to build into his own season. So he's always felt that the indoor season works well for him, right? And he's also a shot putter, right? He's not a sprinter in that way. So athletes have got different reasons for wanting to miss the World Indoors. The greatest of all time, Usain Bolt, never competed at the World Indoors, right? He never suited his schedule or his thing. There are camps like the Dennis Mitchell camp that's coaches the likes of Shakari Richardson, Melissa Jefferson, now Christian Coleman. He made it a point of duty that his athletes will not run any indoor race, and it has always happened, right? So it's a thing of what a coach wants for his training camp and his athletes, and most times they decide what happens. And if an athlete hasn't tuned up itself, him or herself, at previous indoor races, there's no point going for the World Indoor Championship. And in this case, he hasn't run any indoor race. Tobi hasn't run an indoor race this year already, and it just doesn't make sense going to Nanjing.
Okay, well, some people are also talking about the fact that maybe because it's China, the distance, that might be a factor. The last one was held in Europe, which is pretty central, so maybe a lot of people, there were still pullouts, but not as much as we've seen for this particular one. But we'll be keeping tracks on that. But let's talk about Nigerian athletes in the NCAA circuit this season so far. Some have done brilliantly well. One of your former proteges, Joy Udo Gabriel, won the NCAA, I think, women's 60-meter dash in a brilliant time, a new personal best as well. And we've talked about the high jumper as well, who was also the NCAA champion as well. How many of which one of these athletes have really impressed you so far this season? And which one of them do you think can translate that form from indoor into outdoor?
Today, it's a chicken and egg situation, honestly. I'm always caught knowing fully well that these athletes are immensely talented, and if you put them in the right conditions, they would always succeed. The question now is the NCAA the right condition for them to turn pro or perform well for Nigeria? Well, history suggests that it's only a small percentage of them that will be able to do that, perhaps when they're still competing in the NCAA. or when they turn pro. I mean, case in point, in the last 5 years, right, we've had perhaps over 100 athletes come out through the NCAA system in Nigeria, from Nigeria, right? And you can only count on your fingers the ones that have turned pro and are doing well. Tobi Amusan, Tobi Amusan, Favour Ofili, Chukwuebuka Enekwechi, those ones perhaps grew up in America, Chidi Okezie, most of them grew up in America, right? But you could count on your fingers, and there's a reason for that, and that's because the going rate in which you need to succeed at that top level is very, very difficult, and so many things need to work in your favor. But more importantly, like you said, both said a couple of days ago or a couple of weeks ago, the NCAA system burns you out. So someone like Prestina Ochonogor, for example, who just ran a 6:48 or 6.48, in any sane mind, right, this boy should be able to make the final of the men's 100 meters in Tokyo. But I can almost guarantee that will almost not happen, because by Tokyo in September, he must have racked up nothing less than 20 races. And he'll be competing with maybe against like the likes of Akanis and Bini, who just maybe have run maybe 5 or 6 races. And you cannot have the same output. Your body is not a machine, right? It's going to break down. So, and you can't blame the schools in the NCAA. It's their job. They're giving this athlete scholarship. Run for me, win points for my school. Whatever you do next to your body, it's your business.
I get that, but you just paint a very gloomy picture. So what do we do now? We don't have the facilities or the environment to keep these athletes here in Nigeria, whereby they can train and live and work and have a good life. Then they move to the United States, where they are basically worked to death. So what do we do?
I mean, we just talked about MTN champs. There's Emmanuel Ojeli, for example. He's going to the World Indoors, right? He's one of the few athletes that opted to remain in Nigeria and say we can still do it.
Is that by choice? Is that by choice?
Yeah, absolutely by choice. He got enough scholarship to go to the US. He decided to remain with DJLU and train with him. And he's been to 2 Olympics. I mean, if not for the Lenin Friedman last year, would have been perhaps talking of the medal from the Olympics, right? He's won multiple medals at the African level and at the continental level for Nigeria. Right, so we can see that it's possible. Look at the Botswanans. Look at Bayanda Walaza, the World Junior champion on the 20 from last year. He just ran a 9.99 second over the weekend at the provincial South African championships before the nationals. Right, he got a barrage of scholarships to go to the US. He opted to remain in South Africa. Same thing with Ebogo in Botswana, right? And we saw what he went to do. Well, of course, we need to create that condition, which, of course, what we've been doing at Making of Champions to ensure that these conditions are in the right phase for them. Not all of them can decide to stay, which is fine, but we cannot rely entirely on the NCAA system. We have to be able to mix and match both of them. Asafa Paul broke the world record training under Stephen Francis in Jamaica, and it was things like this that spurred the likes of Usain Bolt, Chilean Fraser-Price, and in terms to say we can also remain in Jamaica and become world beaters. And they did it. Jamaica is still a developing country like Nigeria. So if they can do it, why can't we do it? Right? So it's also situations like this where I'm also impressed with this athlete, and Joy, I'm massively impressed with her. You know her pretty well, the sort of talent she has, even though she's not in Division 1 or Division 2. But you could see the fact that the time can compete with what is obtainable in Division 1. Temitope Adeshina, to an immense talent. She feels like a late bloomer, 25 years of age, but regardless, you could know that with the proper training she's getting at Texas Tech, she's also going to perhaps be a world beater, not medaling at the world level every single time, but dominating the African level to the point that she perhaps is number 1 in Africa, right? Then you also look at our sprinters. I mean, Sunday Okon has gone to the NCAA. This is a boy that barely scratches 10 seconds flat over the 100 meters while he was in Nigeria, because we would say that he doesn't have the best of coaching system, right? And he's going over to Auburn, the same place Koinsola is, the same place Favour Ofili was under Kambireburo, and look at the times he's running, 6.54, right? Some of the fastest you would ever see in the history of the event, right? But the question is, what's the output eventually? Would he stagnate when he turned? Would he get a big contract? So we could have this conversation on and on, because it's a full circle moment where something is given and something is taken. But hopefully we can be able to balance it, that not we can give them the option that you don't necessarily have to go to the NCAA to become a world beater.
Amen to that. And that, I think, is actually where we can pretty much put that to rest tonight. And that should actually should be the end goal for everything that we need to do in terms of sports development, especially in track and field here in Nigeria. Deji Ogegbo, thank you so much for coming through tonight. I have it on good authority that you'll be in Nigeria in the next few weeks. So if you do come to Nigeria, you do know that you will be on the show, right? Just so you know. Just so you know.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Thank you very much, Deji. Always a pleasure to see you.